All right, you're welcome once again. Olatunji Shobodu is my name. Let me start by apologizing for the technical hitch that prevented me from coming through to you with the broadcast. I was able to do the broadcast later, much later yesterday. So please visit my website. You would see the video there and find time to go through it. Yesterday was meant to focus on managing finances, and that's precisely what I covered. That's the fifth module, day 6 of the program. And today we're going on to managing investments, which is the 6th module and the 7th day of the 10-day mini adventure into the parables of Christ. We have been looking at how to take advantage of those parables as resources for the realization of profit in our lives. All right, so we started out on we started out 7 days ago with an opening session, and the opening session focused on why look at parables, what do they have to offer us, what are some of the things that you can get from it, and I laid out what we will be undertaking over the course of the remaining 9 days of the program. So we started out with module 1 looking at career growth, and module 2 looking at business growth. Module 3 focused on exemplary leadership. In module 4, we looked at relationship building. And yesterday, like I said, we looked at managing finance. So today, we're going to look at managing investments. Managing investments, you would say, oh, can parables also help me to manage investments or to realize or engage in profitable investing, as I call it? And my answer to you is yes. They are very important insights that you can gain from the parables of Christ. Remember, we said they are essentially they provide us with the core principles by which we can run our lives, the core principles, that can help us to obtain better outcomes in life. And thus far, I'm sure you have seen how from the same set of parables, we have received insights into various, at least 5 out of the 9 priority areas that we'll be looking at all through this 10-day session series. Okay, after the one today, we'll be looking at tomorrow we'll be focusing on character development, and day after we'll be focusing on healthy living, and then after that we'll be looking at supernatural living, or how to build your spirit man, and then we will close with a wrap up, which is like a bonus day actually on the 1st of July. We meet at 9:30 p.m. West African time. All right, so let's get off with the substance of today's discussion. Remember, we have 45 minutes that we spend together here, but if you want to be a part of the VIP, which continues after this for another 45 minutes, then you would find a link that I will share a little later, and you can be a part of that. The VIPs not only have 45 minutes extra, they also have the opportunity of asking me direct questions on what we're discussing, and they would receive answers, to their specific questions. So it's Parables for Profit series, and today we're looking at managing investments. So what we normally do is that we look at a handful of parables and we try to draw insights from them, you know, as they apply to the particular priority area that we're looking at. Like we said, we can't go through the parables in detail. We don't have a lot of time, and that was not the purpose of this series. If you come for the Profit from Parables bootcamp, which is what we follow this series, then you would have the privilege of digging very deep into each of the 38 parables of Christ, and we will see for each of them where they apply and how can you apply them specifically to your life and to your circumstances. It promises, to be very exciting, and I want to encourage you not to miss it. That boot camp is starting in August. I will share the link, very soon, so that you can scan the QR code and then go ahead and register, secure your seat for in that program. So which parables am I going to run through this evening to illustrate how the parables can help you with managing your investments? I'm going to look at the parable of the sower. I'm going to look at also parable of the talents, parable of the mustard seed, parable of the tenant farmers, parable of the lost coin, and also parable of the barren fig tree. The barren fig tree, not the budding fig tree as you have it there. Okay, so let's go right away. The parable of the sower. Here, I just want to emphasize the point about the returns that you need to target for your investments. Again, by way of summary, what does the parable of the sower say? The parable of the sower says, a sower went out to sow. He was carrying seed in his hand and he planted by the wayside. It didn't work for him. He planted by the on stony ground. It did not work for him. He planted on thorny ground. It didn't work for him. In all of those grounds, he did not receive any return, as it were, on his investment. The seed that he carried was his instrument for investing. It's like your funds, or it's like your, whatever resources you have that you are investing. Anything that is capable of being invested, can be represented by that seed. And not until he planted on good ground did he receive a seed. Did he receive returns? Did he have a harvest, which is like your returns? And then we were told that, some were 30-fold, some were 60-fold, and some were 100-fold. Okay, that's like a return of 30%, a return of 60%, a return of 100%. That's what the parable of the sower, tells us. And you can immediately begin to see how you can apply that to engage profitably in your investment. So what's my focus, in particular here? Look at that caption. It says returns to target for your investments. Notice there are 4 scenarios that are painted in this parable of the sower. 4 possibilities. First of all, is that there is an asset to be, there is an investment, there are resources to invest. The seed is the instrument of investment. All right, that's what you are investing. That's what has the capability to reproduce for you. Okay, for us, it will be largely funds, but that's not the only thing that you can invest. Whatever you consider that you can invest, it may even be your time. All right, and it's supposed to offer you a return. Okay, the point here is that, first of all, growth. You can't grow your net worth without engaging in investments. Look, except the grain of wheat falls to the ground and dies, it will abide alone. That's what we understand. Now, you may regard that as scripture, but that's a statement of fact. If you take a seed today, maybe pick an orange seed and put it on the table, not on the ground. Now, as long as that seed is on the table, nothing will happen to it. It's going to remain alone. Yet, that seed has inside it the ability to reproduce. If you will engage that seed the way that you should, you discover it, you see it as an instrument of investment, as it rightly is, you'll be shocked how much that seed can bring about. It can reproduce for you, fruits uncountable. It can produce for you seeds uncountable, but it must not sit on that table. It must not abide alone. You must do something with it. Many of us, need to look inwards. What we have that can, enhance our net worth, we're not doing anything with it. So what I'm saying is that parable tells you that you have been given something that you must engage in as an investment that is capable of yielding you returns and is capable of growing your net worth. There is no way for your net worth to grow without investment. That's what that parable is saying. You may not have looked at it from that point of view, but that's what it's saying. The seed will not increase its net worth if it sits alone, instead of getting down to business, falling into the ground, dying as it were, letting go completely, in order to allow the potential that it has within to come alive. That's what you do when you invest. That's what you do when you engage in investment. It is a vehicle for growing your net worth. It's a vehicle for growing your net worth. If you are not doing it, then you are undermining yourself. You're undermining yourself. And that parable talks about what you and I are supposed to do. Is not optional. We are obligated to do it. It's mandatory. So when we don't do it, all right, we simply undermine ourselves. And by the way, God won't be happy, because you are given endowments, you are given resources so that you can multiply them. Many of you will remember Genesis 1:28. It said, and God blessed them and then said to them, he said, be fruitful and multiply. What are you supposed to be fruitful with? What he has blessed you with. What are you supposed to multiply? What he has blessed you with. You are not expected to hold on to it and to be looking at it, and you are not expected to consume it. All right? There is seed that is given to you. It is for sowing. There is bread that is given to you. It is for eating. Some people are eating both the seed and the bread together. And that's why they are where they are today. All right? So you can begin to see how these parables help you, to get the right perspective that you bring to managing profitable investments in your life. All right? So investing, it promotes growth. It promotes growth. You'll be amazed what that small thing you are holding, what it can produce if you will follow this process. I talked about returns on that you need to target for your investment. There are 4 scenarios, as I mentioned earlier on. You see, 3 times that guy tried to invested in different things. He invested in the wayside. Is like an asset, all right? It's like an investment opportunity. He invested on the stony ground. It's like another asset. He invested on the thorny ground. It was another asset. And then he invested on good ground. So 4 asset classes, 4 opportunities to invest, the same resources that he had. Now, 3 out of the 4, they brought nothing. They brought nothing. So he lost his investment. He lost that resource. He lost that seed. They didn't get anything. But so the returns on that was 0. Okay? Not just that he didn't get anything, he lost his investment. Okay? But when he put his, investment in the right classes, some gave him 30-fold, which is like 30%. Some gave him 60-fold, which is like 60% return. Some gave him 100-fold, which is like, 100% return. So you see, there are 4 scenarios, if we go by that, that tells you what can happen to your investments. All right. You either get nothing, 0%, or 30%. And 30% is probably the least that you should be gunning for. All right. 60% and 100%. But let me say, you see, 30%, 60%, or 100%, they didn't just happen. They happened after he went through the entire process. He did not cut short the process. He was not hasty to get a return. All right. So it's not that you invest in something today and tomorrow you are already beginning to think that you will get 30%. That's not what this parable is saying. This parable is not advocating, what we call 419. It's not advocating money doubling. Okay. There is a process in order for the harvest to happen, which is where you get the return for your investment. Time has to pass. A process must be observed. There are milestones in that process, and that's how every investment happens. That's how every single investment takes place. So you need to be patient to walk through the process. And when you do, you applying the wisdom that this parable makes available to you, it won't be out of place for you to receive at the minimum a 30% return. And indeed, 60% or 100%. So those are the first scenarios. But let it be clear to you that you can lose your money. All right. And this principle recognizes it by telling you, in fact, there is a greater probability that you will lose your money because 3 out of 4 times that guy lost his money. But that's not because investment is not great. That's not because investment is that risky. It is only that risky to the people who are operating without knowledge. If you're operating without knowledge, you run a risk of losing, a high risk of losing your money. Why do I say that? A man will not plant on the wayside. Somebody who knows his onions wouldn't plant on the wayside. Somebody who knows his onions would not plant on stony ground. Somebody who knows his onions will not plant among the weeds, because you know that those are risky investments. There is no assurance that they're going to produce. It's like if you invest in them, it's like gambling. And chances are you're going to lose your money. Chances are you're going to lose your money. All right. But the one who plants on good ground is somebody with knowledge, who understands, the opportunities, who has done his research, who asks questions if he needs to, just so that when he makes his investment, at the very least, he will get a 30% return. going by that parable. All right. So you are told also that you must be mindful of what assets, what opportunities you put your investments in. And one of the things that should guide you is that you need to do research, you need to acquire knowledge, you need to ask from people who know, so that you will be appropriately guided. All right. So I would finish by saying losses are a reality, they're a possibility. All right. Don't go into investments thinking that there's no way you can lose. All right. You can lose, and you can lose everything. Okay. However, all right, profitability or returns are also predictable, and they are for those who have knowledge. Another way that you can use the principles that this parable, exposes to us, is that you can see the 4 asset classes as, an attempt by the man to diversify his portfolio. So he put some here, he put some here, he put some there. All right, so that in the end, all right, he can diversify his risk. Now, that concept you can take away from the parable of the sower. You may not have looked at it from that point of view, but that's part of what you get from it. So diversification is covered, and when you put the totality of the insights that you get from this parable together, you would approach your investments differently. And the chances are that you will make money, not lose money. You will make money, not lose money, because you've already been given insights into how you can lose money. Okay. And also, by the time we deal with this in detail in the profit from Parables Bootcamp, you will see how to practically apply it, and to apply it in such a way that you will make money instead of losing money. You will get returns instead of losing your investment. So that's the first part. And you can, as our customer has been, you can look at the parable of the sower again. You go back and read it again in Mark chapter 4, in Luke chapter 8, and in Matthew chapter 13. So I hope you begin to look at the parables differently from now. They are not just those religious, scriptures, the way many of us have tended to look at them, in the past. They are intended to, to benefit us in far more ways than we have made effort, to discover. So hopefully this helps. Now, I want to advance an aspect that I've just spoken about a bit more by looking at the parable of the talents, because from the parable of the talents, we also have very important insights into how to manage our investments profitably. You recall that in the parable of the talents, again, summarizing that, what we found was that, you had a boss, where you had like a boss, okay? And the boss was going somewhere to engage in some other responsibility, and he then took his resources and shared it among his servants, like his workers, his officials. And so he gave one talent, he gave another 2 talents, and he gave another 5 talents, and he told them, he said, occupy till I come, meaning do business with this till I come. He says, another way to look at this is invest these talents that I have given to you, see how much money you can make, how much returns you can get for me, before I come. And then 2 of them went ahead and doubled what they were given. The one who got the least was the one who went to hide what he was given, and giving excuses that his master was wicked, he used to reap where he did not sow, and all of that stuff. So when the master came back, he said, okay, let me see what, gentlemen, you have done. And each one gave his report. And he took action on them, celebrated and saluted those who did well, and he sanctioned the one who did not do well. And then he did a portfolio reallocation at the end of the day. He said, collect from the one who didn't do well and give to the one who did the most, who performed the highest. Okay, that was, if we start from there, that's portfolio allocation. It's the reallocation of assets. So there is an aspect where you reallocate. That is, from time to time, as you look at your portfolio of investments, you need to reallocate your resources. You reallocate so that you move your resources to where they will give you the highest return, or improve the returns, okay? And you take them away. You get out of positions that are non-performing. That's what that lazy servant represented. That lazy servant represented an asset class. He put money in that asset class. That asset class did not produce. He discovered later that instead of putting money in that asset class, if he had just left his money in a savings deposit or a time deposit in the bank, he would have collected at least some minimal return. That's the worst return that can happen. So again, from that parable, what you find is that the most basic investment that you or anyone should be looking at is putting money in the bank. Money in the bank will never give you, the highest investment. And it is less risky. That's the reason. Because if you put your money in the bank, all things equal, you go to the bank, you get your money back. But some of the other investments that we're talking about, if you take your money and you buy seeds and you went to invest in farming, the returns are going to be far higher than what you would ever get from a bank. All right, it's captured in these things. So there is reallocation, but before the allocation was a proper allocation. He gave some money, 5 talents to the first servant, which is like the first asset class. He gave 2 talents to the second servant, which is like the second asset class, the second opportunity he saw to invest, and then the third. Notice he didn't spread his resources equally. All right, it doesn't make sense to spread your resources equally into different investments. Some say, well, I want to play safe, so I put, and the reason for that is because you must take into consideration the nature of what you are investing in. All right, the potential to earn returns from each investment varies. And so you should assign or allocate resources to reflect the potential. The investments with the greatest potential should attract, a greater portion of your total investable resources. That's how it should be done. That is what that parable, the insights that the parable is given to us. He said he gave the talents to his people, all right, to reflect their varying capabilities. That is, their ability to effectively utilize that the resource that he put in their hands. It's the same thing when you invest in different asset classes. Different asset classes also have different risk profiles. Now, the guy who had the greater capability, all right, it may have come with higher risk because, he stood to lose more from non-performance of that guy than he stood to lose from others. All right. But he balanced it out because that asset class, that guy had proven to be very reliable over time. You see how to apply these things. So you may say that, well, maybe he didn't consider risk. Oh, yes, he did consider risk. He did consider risk because we're told that he has known about these fellows. He knew they were not strangers to him. He knew them. He had tested them in the past and he has seen them perform. All right. And that's what happens when you begin to invest. There's a learning curve that you are going to have to go through. And that learning curve is for you to understand really how each asset class performs. All right. For you to understand how each asset class performs. So again, you can see that so he allocated, look at the basis for allocating, and when performance came, he reallocated again. So it's a continuous process. It's a continuous process. And if it continues like that, guess what will happen? His net worth, the value of his investments will continue to grow. Remember, I said investment promotes growth. Growth in your net worth, growth in the resources that you command. Growth in your knowledge, actually, because the more you do it, the more knowledgeable you become. And the more knowledgeable you become, the more effective you become at doing it, and the greater the returns. That's how, this process is a self-reinforcing process if we will discipline ourselves to follow it through. So it's if you would use this insights that you have, you will not just completely rely on so-called professionals or investment advisors who may be telling you things that are contrary to this. All right. So I think that's a good place to stop so that we can move on to the next. And you know where to find the parable of the talents. This is not the first time we're talking about them, but we have talked about them in different lights. I hope that that discussion, seeing them in the light of investments, gives you a whole new perspective to, to the application that the parable of the talent offers. I hope it certainly does help you in that regard. All right, let's go on to look at what the parable of the mustard seed will help us with. Again, giving us that ability, enhancing our ability to manage our investments profitably. You know what the parable of the mustard seed is about. The parable of the mustard seed focuses on, tells us that a man had a seed. Okay. Um, just a minute, please. All right. So it tells us that a man, had a seed. And so he went out and planted that seed, the mustard seed, the smallest seed. Said, but when after planting the mustard seed, he watched it grow, and soon that seed, was transformed into a massive, massive tree. Not overnight, by the way, over a space of time. But when you look at what the size of the seed, it's so miniature that you can overlook it or you can throw it away and not feel anyhow. It's so miniature that you will say to yourself, what can this, achieve? What can it accomplish? Okay, there's a tendency to play down the significance of the mustard seed. All right, but it soon became a massive tree that so many people came under it, all right, for succor, for shade. And that tells us something that is so, so important. And now, we have seen from the parable of the sower that the seed represents your investment resource. Okay? That's what we saw. And we saw that when you engage that seed, and you indeed need to engage that seed, without engaging the seed, you would leave the seed with potential, and the potential will never become, real. The potential will never become real, and that would be a shame. All right. But that seed, if you engage it and you flex the potential, it can soon produce 30% return, 60% or 100% return. Okay, now this mustard seed dimension tells us that never mind the size of your investment, of the resource that you have. Some people want to wait until they have a lot of money before they invest or engage in investments. They tell you, how much can this one do? When I have substantial amount, I will be able to look at these investment opportunities. No, you are not supposed to wait for that, because even when you have just small resources, small resources can do great things. Don't be discouraged with size. All right, don't be discouraged by size. If anyone looks at the mustard seed physically, you are going to say, what can this one do? I'm not going to waste my time. All right. I'm going to look for maybe mango seeds or pear seeds, which are big. Okay, or orange seeds. And you think it's because of the size of the seed that tells you what the seed can produce for you. And that's far from the truth. So I think that the mustard seed helps you to bring the right perspective to the phenomenon about investment. Now, look at the fact that investments are the vehicle for enhancing your net worth. There is no other way. There is no other way. Now, but if you don't bring the right perspective, you will wait forever thinking that there's a time that resources will get into your hand. That's when you will start investing. When in fact, you could have set aside little and begun at a point, and that little could turn out to be something very massive. I mean, people have done that calculation for you. If you take just 100 naira and you begin to compound it, maybe at the rate of, like 20% or so, or 25% over 4 years, that 100 naira, will become something that you'll be shocked. You'll be shocked. So, and if you invest that and it stays for 10 years, you won't believe that you started out with 100 naira. Many people have stories, of just having invested a very token amount and it became something massive. I remember, and that's an experience I won't forget in a hurry. That many years ago, when I had challenges at work in my career, my bank was, as it were, not was battling for life, and the income wasn't forthcoming. It was really threatened. My wife took a bold step at the time and invested. I think it was a token amount then. Even then, it was a token amount. 200 naira, of course, is far more valuable. Was far more valuable then relative to today. But 200 naira was something that I would never bother with, even as at that time, which was possibly about 15 years ago or thereabout. But I tell you, sir, during that period, that 200 naira, which was invested, in a particular activity, soon became what paid the school fees of my children at the time. And it did that for quite a while before, I transited, got another job, and then, the income began to flow once again. So I have an understanding of the mustard seed concept and an experience, of what it talks about. Investment can be your saving grace. And it can be the saving grace for many. Notice, he said, many came to hide or to take shade, to take succor under that tree. That tells you that one of the reasons that you are supposed to take investment seriously, and the reason and why you should never play down on the significance of making a little effort, even if it's a little effort, always ensure that you have an investment, is that you can be the saving grace for other people. You can be the saving grace for other people. So when you are investing, please don't think about yourself alone. That growth in net worth that we're talking about, that investment is capable of offering you, is not just exclusively for your own benefit. All right? The mustard seed was planted. The person didn't play down on its significance. It became a massive tree. And then that story says people came to take cover under it. People came to take cover under it because a man and a woman decided to invest. They became an instrument of blessing, of help, of support, of rescue, of adding value to the lives of others. So that's why attitude to investments is important. It's not just about the pursuit of returns. It's also for what purpose? Is to bless your own life and to bless the lives of others. To bless the lives of others. Let me say this, at Emmet Leadership Academy, where we nurture leaders based on truth, and on which platform we have brought to you Parables for Profit, our emphasis is on truth. And truth for us is found in the Word of God. It is the basis, for delivering, for showcasing what we're showcasing, because we know that because it is founded on truth, it works. Beyond what we have experienced, we know that it works. All right, and that's it. So I mean, you can relate to some of the other things that I've mentioned there. I need to skip this again. Check out the parable of the mustard seed. Just three, four scriptures, depending on which version you look at, but therein lies such powerful insight, such powerful insight. When you come to the Profit from Parables bootcamp, you will see how we will dissect. It's 4 verses in some cases, it's 2 verses in some cases, but by the time we are done dissecting that seemingly short, concise parable, you will be amazed at what you can get from it and how it can benefit your life. Okay, let's look at, one or two more, and then we'll call it a day. Today, smartness to ride the tough weather. What am I saying here? I'm saying that, there is another parable that can be very helpful. It can be very helpful because, it tells you that when you invest, okay, it's not as simple as putting your money down and going away and just coming back, to ask for your return. Okay, what happened in this particular situation? This was a situation where a man had a property. He had a built up, facility, all right, that people can use to cultivate, to farm, to cultivate. They called it a vineyard. So you could, you could plant grapes and what have you, and they had the facility for turning the grapes to wine. And it was really a lease of that facility. That was the nature of the investment. The owner of the investment leased the facility to these farmers with an understanding that, at the end of each season, he's going to show up and they're going to give him his own cut, his own return. They will pay for the lease, and perhaps the arrangement also included him getting some percent of the profit realized from the use of the facility. And so when the time came, he sent his servants to go and ask for his return. And lo and behold, he was shocked because those who leased the facility then turned against him, by beating up his servants and sending them off. He sent another set of servants. They dealt with those ones also. They didn't want to pay. They had no intention of paying. And then, the man thought, okay, maybe something was going wrong. He didn't quite get what was going on. And I said, okay, if I send my son, at least they will show some respect to my son, and I will get what is due to me. And when the people saw the son, they recognized that it was the son, and they thought it was an opportunity for them to convert the asset to theirs. And they decided, come, let's kill the son. When we kill the son, the man will have no hair, and we can take over the asset. So what this is an interesting dimension. It may not be something that you would expect to be discussed, from a conventional perspective, but let it not surprise you, because what it tells you is that when you invest, there are different kinds of investments. Some investments can become troublesome. That's the truth. Some investments can become troublesome. And I can give you a very simple example. If you build a house, if you build a house, it's your own. What do? You let it out. All right? And then you go there to the tenants. They are supposed to pay you at the end of every month. At the end of a year. Each year. And then you show up and, you get what you didn't bargain for. And it turns out that it's tough, getting them to pay for the use of your facility. And we have had all manner of things that have transpired between, landlord and tenants. It's the kind of thing we're seeing here. Underlying basis for the relationship is an investment. The landlord invested in a property and leased it to a set of people to use the property, and he expects returns from the property. Okay? So this tells you that investing is not as simple as just putting your money there and going and coming back and expecting, that once you ask for it, you would just be given. In some cases, yes, depending on the kind of investment. In some other cases, it doesn't happen like that. All right. So you have to be smart. You have to be smart in your choice of investments. And smart how? You must know, first of all, that good investments can be compromised. They can become tough. It's easy to invest, it's not easy. You may find it difficult to get your returns. So you must pay attention to the terms of the investment. You must ensure that you protect yourself against adverse partners. Ensure that you protect yourself against adverse partners. Ensure also that you secure your investments. All right? And you want to do everything to ensure that there is order and decency, in which case that all the parties play according to the rules. That's why, for example, if you get a loan, the bank wants to collect collateral. And they don't stay just by collecting a collateral, they want to perfect that collateral. What that means is that they want to be sure that when you default and you refuse to pay them, like those guys who leased the farm and refuse to pay, they don't have to come back to you in order to recover their money, including what is due to them. All right, they can take immediate steps. So they try to secure themselves. They try to ensure that the rules are very clear and they can be enforced. Why? Because it's important for them to recover both the investment and the return. And they know that people can be difficult. People can play games. You may not have thought about this parable. It's not a very popular one, by the way. I mean, I don't know how many of us can remember it, but even if you did, you may not have seen it from this perspective. Again, does that not add to you? Do you get from this parable something you didn't get from the others? Do you see the reason why one parable doesn't necessarily provide the complete, principles? Do you understand why a study of all the parables are required so that you can have a wholesome approach to the management of different aspects of your life? Can you feel the potential empowerment that undertaking that kind of once in a lifetime adventure will do to you? Are you beginning to see parables in a different light? That they are not just stories that Jesus told just to make you feel good or just to get excited or just to, show you that he's human like yourself, because his intentions were far in excess, far beyond all of that. He was conveying fundamental principles that if you will catch what they say, you will save yourself a lot of headache in life. You can't listen to this parable and then in your day-to-day investment, conduct, you get stuck. That means you haven't learned from the parable. The parable is telling you your investments can be compromised, and it's challenging you and drawing your attention to the things that you need to do. You must take care to do to make sure that you can collect those returns with ease. Otherwise, those returns can be a mirage, and that will be a shame. That will be a shame. So that's the parable of the tenant farmers for you, and you see what they say. All right. Okay. There's a way. The right attitude to managing investments, we talked about that yesterday also. The right attitude to managing finances. If you look at yesterday's replay, the video replay, and so basically I'm repeating very close, pretty much the same thing, and I'm using the same parable in this case. and is that investments demand prudence. Every naira of investment, every dollar of investment, you must take seriously. All right. If a very little can bring about a mustard seed, you see, I can't afford to take any little amount for granted. I can't afford to waste. All right. Now, this parable says somebody had money, lost a coin, and went in search of that coin until she found it. And then she celebrated that she's found it, called people to celebrate with her. And you can appreciate the reason why that happens. Today, many of us will not do that. Many of us will forget the coin, not knowing that by forgetting the coin, we forget the mustard seed, the mustard tree that the coin could have provided. We forget that we could have been a blessing through that coin to many, many lives. And so you shouldn't allow, when you are prudent, you want everything accounted for. You pursue it, you give it a search, you do everything. That's why that man in the parable of the tenant farmers, he never gave up, even after they killed his son. He was not threatened, he wasn't discouraged. He went after the guys and dealt with them and retrieved his farm and perhaps everything else that they had produced that they were keeping on the farm, and sent them all packing. All right, so he went after it. You are supposed to do the needful to make sure that you go after every dime of your investment to retrieve them, to the point that at least you satisfy yourself with that I've done all. If I can't recover, then God knows I have done all that, it's important for me to do. That attitude is important. That attitude to bring to the table is important. Let me say that. And now I need to bring this discussion to a close. I'm going to look at the last one, which is the parable of the barren fig tree. What is the parable of the barren fig tree saying? And here I want to speak to an aspect of what that parable leads us into, and that is knowing when to cut your losses. Knowing when to cut your losses. So far, we have been talking about investments, and we've made it clear that, look, losses are a reality. You can lose when you invest. The intention is not for you to invest to lose or to lose from your investment. It is to have to gain from your investments. But you can lose. You can put your resources in certain places and they may not deliver to you in line with your expectation. All right? Now, that will be because, one, you don't have good knowledge, sufficient knowledge, as we have demonstrated. Two, can be because of situations like that of the tenant farmers, where things went well for the tenant farmers. They were doing well. They planted, they were having harvest. They just didn't have any intention of paying the person who gave them the facility to use for the investment. So situations like that can happen. So we want you to, realize that. And that when certain things don't go the way that you had thought and expected they will, what do? Do you continue to wait forever? Do you continue to throw more resources in there forever? What does this parable say? This parable says that a man had a vineyard. He cultivated figs. And he went to the vineyard, and to the fig tree, and he went to the gardener, to the keeper of the vineyard, and said, "What's going on?" He said, "These 2 years, these past 3 years actually, I've been coming and I've been seeking returns from you, but you haven't given me any returns. I've just invested in this facility. I haven't got returns for 3 good years. What's going on? Can you please cut down this tree? Because this tree is just encumbering space. is just utilizing and wasting my resources. I need to use this facility to get a return from it. All right? So he was ready to cut his losses, because if you cut down the tree, you are not going to get anything. So you have simply said, look, I think I've tried 3 years, I've invested, nothing is coming. Thank God, okay, it's bad enough that I'm not getting any harvest, but at least I have the land. I can remove it and plant something else so that I don't lose completely. Okay? He was ready to cut his losses. Why was it a good time to cut his losses? One, because he had given time. I said earlier on, when you invest, you need to allow the process. You don't invest last month and you're expecting 100% return this month. Even in the capital market, that's not the way it's supposed to be done. Don't invest or go into investments with a gambling attitude. Don't invest or go into investments with what's the word to use now? Someone who is greedy. They are the people who put in 1 naira yesterday. They are expecting to get 5 naira today. That's not how investments work. That is gambling. That's not investment. And they almost always lose everything. Why? Because they are trying to run contrary to the principles that underlie investments. So the guy had allowed, the phases to play out. 3 years. Each season has come and gone. Each season has come and gone. In this case, it wasn't the gardener who was playing games. So he understood that as well. Because at least he could see that the tree had nothing. It had plenty of leaves, perhaps, but it was not giving any fruit. And he knew he couldn't wait forever. So it was time to reallocate his resources. It was time to do what? To reallocate his resources. Why? Because you are not allowed to have investment that is not yielding anything. You must do something about it. You must do something about it. After you have waited, you have gone through the process as that principle shows you. Now, part of the principle is what we're saying. You need to re-examine what's happening, cut your losses so that you can free up your assets or, and apply it to some other opportunity. And then what happened? And that takes us to something else. The person in charge says, sir, wait a minute, give me one more chance. Mm-hmm. And by the way, I wrote a book on this. It's titled One More Year, Please. One More Year, Please. Maybe I'll post the link before we're through if I can. One More Year, Please. Basically, to talk about certain dimensions of this parable that you'll be surprised you need to learn. Okay. Okay, I've just posted a link in the chat. If you click that link, all my books are there. If you're interested, you can see that book. So he says, so the man was saying, look, give me a bit more time. As some people will say, when you invest with them, maybe you enter into a partnership, and they've tried out. And the man says, look, give me a bit more time. Let me dung it. Okay. Let me apply fertilizer to it. Let me dig around it. Okay. That is, let me try a few more things. Let me take a few more steps. Okay. Let's not just write this investment off like that. And I guess, the investor was convinced, was persuaded at that argument. He wasn't just saying, oh, leave it for 1 year, let's see what happens. No, he was saying, leave it for 1 year, but over the period of that 1 year, I'm going to put in, additional effort. I'm going to try some things I haven't tried before. And so he said, okay, fine. Let's have the understanding. In fact, it was that person that said, well, if after the 1 year, if after I've tried, these additional steps, I've taken these additional steps and we still don't get, and we still don't get the effect that we want, is still where there's still no return, then we can cut down the tree. So I hope that helps you to appreciate that there are times when certain investments won't go the way that you expect. It's not because of the village people. It's not because somebody is creating some problem somewhere. It's not because some people are trying, to defraud you, of your investments. It's because at times some investments go the way that you did not expect. If you put money in the capital market, for example, at times it's not because your broker is playing funny. It's just that the market goes contrary to all the analysis, and all the skills that the broker can muster. Okay. And in that situation, things become tricky. So you may also have to say, okay, since this thing is not looking like it will give us what you had promised me, is it not time to sell off this stock, and at least let's save what we can save now, and invest in some other assets at a later date. Again, these are practical applications to which we can, take advantage of what parables have to offer us. And I want to insist and to emphasize again that that's why you need to be at the Profit from Parables bootcamp. It starts in August, and the level of detail is going to be more than this, far more than this. We're going to use practical examples, and hopefully, you are seeing, what we have been discussing has been making an impact on you. If you are joining us for the first time, please go to my YouTube channel. We started off 7 days ago. This is the 7th outing. You can watch every single episode. I think that the free version, which is what we're doing now, has tended to take an hour. So you've had a bonus of 15 minutes each time, before I switch to the VIP. And that's like 30% bonus time shared with me, and hopefully, something that gives you very valuable content. And then I'll close by just the way we would normally close, to remind you that when you look at all of these issues, you see risk factors. It helps you to identify risk factors that are associated with investments, and also, what you can do to mitigate that. And then we also have identified boosters, of your investments. From all of our discussions, we have not, for this short time that we have, been able to segment them and identify them, individually, very clearly. Again, there is only so much we can do in 45 minutes, and now in 1 hour, but a lot more we'll be able to do in the more substantive program. Like I make a distinction between parables for profit and profit from parables. The first one shows you these are the resources that you are missing, and look at, the connection between them and how you can get them to realize profit. And the second one shows you practically how you can take advantage of the insights you get from the parables to bring profit in diverse ways into your life, and to give you greater control of the outcomes of your life, to move your life to a new trajectory. So the question for you that can help you to make sense of what we have discussed today, pending when you attend the bootcamp, what issues are hindering your investment management goals? What issues are hindering your investment management goals? You want to list them, and think through what parables can help you, to address them. That's what you want to do in the short, based on what we have discussed so far. So tomorrow will be the 8th day. Tomorrow we're going to be we're going to be talking about character development. We'll look at how the parables help you to develop a strong and compelling character. All right. Um, so if you want to join the VIP, you can scan the QR code that is on your screen right now. Those who are on the VIP, paid 25,000 for the privilege to have additional 45 minutes and additional insights discussed, and also, to be able to ask their questions. Okay. And I believe they have been enjoying that. So you want to scan that. And for those who want to register, consider seriously being a part of the bootcamp, Profit from Parables. There you have another QR code. You scan that with your camera, and it takes you directly to the page where you can secure your seat. Okay, where you can secure your seat. Please go ahead. You have three options to do that. You can. The registrations are in three categories. There's the platinum, there's the VIP as well, and there is the standard. The standard is what is shown. The payment is on monthly basis, but for the other ones, the payment is a bulk payment with major discounts, and you will see the specific benefits that each one offers. So thank you for joining me this evening, and for staying with me over the 7 days. Please, I encourage you to put your comments in the chat. I may not be able to answer your questions, in here in this session, but at least you can put the questions, or you can put your comments. If anything occurred to you, if you receive any insight, if you are puzzled about anything, let's know, how you feel, and I can even showcase it on the screen for others to benefit. You may not have an immediate response, except you come to the VIP, but at least we can share, we can have feedback from you, and we can share your thoughts, and everyone else also can share your thoughts on what we have discussed. Once again, I'm grateful. Thank you for giving me your ears. I do hope that, it has been time well spent for your good selves. It's always enjoying, I enjoy every bit of it. I'm passionate about these things. I know that they work. I know that, they were intended to change our lives, to add serious value to our lives, and I sort of weep, almost like Jesus wept, because we haven't given the kind of we have not given the kind of attention to them. We have not taken advantage of them, and many of us are going through things that, if only, we will spend more time to dig out and lay hold on the hidden pearls, the gems, the nuggets that are kept in these things, our life, the quality of our lives will be different. And that's my promise for everyone that comes on the bootcamp. I know already that anyone who has attended these sessions to date, or anyone who goes back to listen to all the videos, for these 7 days, even if you don't come for the bootcamp, I'm sure one day you are going to come back to me to say, sir, this, I had an encounter. I have no doubt in my mind. I believe God to that extent, because I believe in the content, of what we have been discussing. I think I've said enough. I need to switch to the other platform. But I'll leave this for you if you are still thinking of joining. And again, for those who may want to join the VIP, you can still have. What I can promise is that maybe we'll share with you some of the videos. If you still join today, you have 4 more days, to be a part of that. We have 3 more days to go, and there's going to be a wrap up day, and you can still be a part of the VIPs after the total of 11 days, as it were. If you are joining the VIP today, I can give you the privilege, of accessing the video replay of the days that you have missed. All right. So I'll leave you with that. While if you want to join, I will, show the I will show the what do you call it? I will show the QR codes. I'll leave it for a bit, and then I will close this portion formally. Once again, God bless you. Thank you very much.